Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast. Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. Game week edition of the Ask Level podcast. This one, as always, brought to you by our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Christopher, welcome to Game Week.
Yeah, long wait is nearly over. And as we get going here, you know, life is a struggle sometimes for a variety of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people that would maybe listen to a show like this are in our sweet spot for this brief commentary from me. But with game week on the cusp and a home game on the cusp and all those things, life, man, it'll throw you some haymakers at times. Whether it's mental health or financial or your job or, I don't know, your marriage or relationships you've got. It doesn't matter. It's just like sometimes, man, life is a struggle and everything costs more and all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
I hope that, because I have a hard time with this too, in the sense that I hope that people this coming weekend find, and I'm trying to be corny here, but I hope they find their joy in why they love college football so much. There's a million reasons just in that space to kind of get sideways with it. The kids are getting paid and it's just their whatever. I don't know, but there's a reason why people love sports. There's a reason why football in general moves the needle more than any other sport in this country, professional and college. And I just hope people, when they show up to Jones AT&T this week, I hope that they find their joy and why they liked it to begin with, whether it's the pomp and the circumstance, whether it's the sizzle, whether it's young people just competing at a very high level, whether it's because Joey came and talked to your group at some point this summer or in the off season, wherever you may be. And he's very passionate about what he does, whatever. I just hope that people go enjoy themselves. That's what it's supposed to be, fun. And yeah, you hope your team wins and all those things, but I don't know why I felt the need to say that, but because I look in the mirror with that as well. There's a million reasons why I want to,
Sure.
yeah, and I try to just remember why I like doing this and why it's fun.
Yeah, it's a good way to start it. I think there is a lot of joy to find in sports, and I think that's why a lot of us don't like when the politics and the other stuff, the other narratives mix in with our sports, because sports are our escape. It's supposed to be our fun. So and college football, for so many people in this part of the country, it is the sport, and I'm ready for it. I am ready to, just like all those players, the cliche of we're tired of hitting each other, ready to hit someone else. We're tired of talking about the same things over and over. We're ready to talk about an actual opponent, an actual game that we get to see in front of our two eyes. So we'll get to do that in the next podcast, but some finishing touches on the offseason level. We'll get to a few questions, look at a couple of position groups, and some interesting news out there regarding Big 12, UConn, these sorts of talks. So we'll dabble in all of that today. Let's start with the football stuff. And we had a similar question, if I remember, a couple of weeks back, but someone else asked, is there a game level that you want Texas Tech to win the most, that maybe you'll get the most joy out of winning that?
Well, I think there was a similar question, but I'm gonna answer it differently now than I did then, with a different take or spin on it. I think at the time, is there a game that you really wanted to? And I think we pointed to just personally. I think I pointed to TCU, but I think I even said just because it's fun to beat those guys, and
Sure.
the athletic directors are going back and forth at each other and all that stuff. And they gloat more than anybody when they beat you, and so it's just nice to. But I think I said for the team's sake that the Arizona game may be one that I would want to win the most, just because it's the first road conference game, and if you win that one,
You did.
it really sets yourself up. And Arizona is, I think, ranked in the preseason. But let me shift a bit. Let me move it up on the calendar a bit. I mean, you could make a real argument that the Washington State game is a monster game.
Mhm.
Joey's gone on the road to Raleigh. Joey's gone on the road to Laramie. It hadn't gone well, and these are in the non-conference portion of the schedule. And those early losses have kind of somewhat limited what you ultimately could do those seasons.
Mhm.
They didn't affect your conference race, but it maybe set the tone for poor starts to the season, and that lasted a bit before you finally got it on track and then rallied to finish strong, going 6-2 in November.
Yep.
I think. But I could make the argument that Washington State is a monster game. I think Joey and his staff, or a combination of folks, have studied life on the road, have talked to a ton of people about road games and what is your secret? What is your secret? What is your secret, from folks that have done it in a variety of sports. I mean, Joey's asked Grant McCaslin about it. Hey, you're a really good road coach. Like, what's the secret sauce there?
True.
So if you show up in Pullman in the second week of the season and don't play well and come out with a loss, I could see where some of the other ones I'm talking about don't have near as much meaning because you didn't get that one done early on. You follow me?
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
you're spot on with that because of the tone setter part that you're talking about. And not just with the team, but with the fan base, everybody with the overall excitement there. It will be deflating if you lose a week 2 game in Pullman against a team like if you were playing what you were originally scheduled here and going up to Eugene, Oregon,
Oregon, right?
it'd be a little different. It'd be a little different.
Well, or a lot. Yeah, because
So-
I think Oregon's top 10, and Outson Stadium is just they don't lose much there. But
So
Washington State they were left out of the
Yeah.
perception. Not only would it be bad for you and your program and your team this year, like the immediacy of your group, but it would also be a hit to the perception of the Big 12. Like you
Yeah.
can't even beat the team that y'all left out. Not
Y'all left
there's
out,
a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that, as we know. But you get what I'm
Sure.
saying. So
Sure.
anyway,
No,
there's a different take on that same or similar question.
Well, I think if you win this game level, I think the expectation is that you go at least 6-1 to start the season. That you're bowl eligible by week 7, or I guess week 8 or whatever with the bye week. But I mean that's kind of the idea, because you play 3 pretty powder puff Big 12 games to start at home. The Arizona game's tough, obviously, but 3 teams that combined for a 9-27 record last year. So, yeah,
I just would tell everybody this is how everybody talks about North Texas, and you'll be heavily favored, but you're 4-4 against those guys the last 8 times you played them.
Sure.
Because I've seen this program whenever I was going to school, 21, 24-point favorite, lose games, and then turn right around and beat a top 5 team the next week. Go figure.
Yeah.
But I saw these things. I witnessed them. That was so, just an 11 a.m. kick. I know it's supposed to happen, but that's the beauty of sports. Ask Florida State how that worked out for them this past weekend.
You were absolutely right. We love the sports. So, I mean, obviously, all these conversations on paper, this is what's supposed to happen.
I know.
But we get to see it play out. And
Nevada was a 27.5 point underdog at home against SMU. and SMU's jumping up and down, doing la 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 la, that whole song that they do and everything at with their little pony hooves up, bouncing around like crazy at the end of that one because they barely hung on.
Yeah.
And threw an unbelievable, touchdown pass to end it. And I'm thinking to myself, football is hard. Sports this is why we embrace this stuff so much, because we think we know a lot, and what's supposed to happen rarely does it.
And
rarely does it happen that way.
One of the toughest things in all of sports is winning high-level college road games.
Oh yeah,
and you could say it for basketball, you could say it for football. You look at the win percentages at home, it is just so difficult to do, no matter if there's ranked teams or whatever's involved. It is tough to do. So you can't take anything for granted there. And you take any sort of win, and that includes week 2 in Pullman. But you gotta take care of business in week 1 against Abilene Christian, obviously.
Yes.
And Level, as we look towards Abilene Christian, most of the time, and you can completely disagree with this if you want, but most of the time I think you don't learn a ton about your team, maybe besides seeing new people, new faces that you haven't seen before, but you don't really learn a ton about your team. Coaches do, but the general fan, when you play an Abilene Christian, unless it's a negative thing. When you play right? I mean, we've seen it in the more
when Zach
season.
Kitley brings Houston Baptist in here,
Yeah,
and you're like,
that
what
right there
is going on?
That's not a good sign. So
our pets' heads are falling off. And,
you look back to
yeah.
you look back to some of those worst seasons, Level, and a lot of times you struggled or didn't play too well against the FCS opponent. So that can be a telling sign. It's not, just hard fast rule on that, but you're probably not going to learn a lot this weekend unless it's a negative thing.
I will say this though. I do think that it's different now than ever before, because the FCS teams are not young and tiny and all that. This ACU roster is going to come in here with, I think there's 6 or 7 at least Red Raiders on here. Maverick McGuire, Jed Castles, Trey Cleveland, Ty Yanta, I could Nehemiah Martinez.
Yep.
All of them will have something to prove. At one point, you thought they were good enough to play for you, and in a lot of cases, most of them did. So that's why it makes it a bit tricky these days, because you just don't look at the size of that team over there, because it does. I mean,